Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share with you something this afternoon of what God's put on my heart. My name's Andrew, come from the UK. My mother's from Burma, and I grew up in the UK as a British person, and I came to Christ when I was 20. I'm married, I've now got 4 children, and God called myself and my family to serve Him in Thailand. About 20 years ago we've been in Thailand. I'd just like to state from the very beginning that I'm just an ordinary Christian, an ordinary person, but also that being a Christian is not an ordinary thing, it's an extraordinary thing. It's just been a joy to serve God in Thailand. God has laid a people on our hearts particularly called the Shan, who are in Burma and China and Thailand, and we've been working amongst them for the last 18 years and had a heart to see God cause His church to grow in this place, and that people would have somebody to call out to when they're faced with the challenges of life and the worries that people have, and really ultimately salvation through Jesus has been something that has called us, but also has compelled us and driven us for the last few years. After working here for a while, our eyes were open to some of the situations that people face. And one of those is HIV/AIDS and people affected by HIV/AIDS. My wife had a background in education that made us interested a little bit in HIV/AIDS, but I didn't have anything in me I didn't come here to work with people who were affected by HIV/AIDS. I didn't have a vision for it. But as we met with people in the community who were affected, and people we got to know and got to love, were affected, and just their lives in one way were destroyed by HIV/AIDS, and people were dying. It's something that we couldn't shut our eyes or hearts or minds to. And as we grew and continued to work with local Christians here, we started working more intentionally with people affected by HIV/AIDS. And to be honest, the thing that really struck us is that as we worked with people who were affected, and as God worked in the situation, we kind of got more out of it than we put in. We were more blessed by the people we were seeking to interact with than any blessing that they would have got from us and our involvement in their lives. I think it's a mutual thing, but it's wonderful serving God. The other thing is, in this whole area, it kind of taught us to think away from ourselves and to think about other people in a way that perhaps I hadn't before. But there were particular people that came into our lives. One woman called Hvem, who became a Christian after being very anti-Christian, not liking anything to do with Christianity. But when she became a Christian, her heart was changed, and she became somebody who kind of like shone with Jesus. That we were actually able to receive the blessing from her, even as we were trying to bless her in some way. But as she died, in the process of her dying, it was like a seed falling to the ground. You know, it says in the Bible, unless a seed falls to the ground, how are you going to see a harvest? And that's what's happened with that particular lady's life. She died, and she's no more. She's been dead for many years now. But the fruit of that woman's testimony after Jesus came into her life, that her body was wasting away, but inwardly she was growing and becoming more like Jesus, has impacted lots of people. And so some of the communities that we work with have been very historically not positive about Jesus, not positive about a foreigner's religion, but people saw Jesus in Hvem and other people who've been affected by this ministry and are drawn to it. And so what we never thought of working with HIV affected people as being a strategy for church planting. And it's not a strategy for church planting, it's just a reflection of the love of Christ in us towards people who are suffering. But it is a strategy because it's something that God has been using to draw people to Himself. As the fragrance of Christ is expressed, people are drawn to Jesus, and whether they're HIV affected or not affected by HIV, it's been an amazing thing to see. And so as time has gone by, I've begun to see a response to HIV in a community is something that's appropriate for Christians. It's something that should be there. if Christians are meant to love those who are unlovable, or bless those who curse them, or love those who hate them, if they're meant to be that sort of people, you can see it in a ministry like AIDS Care, because people have an authentic love that is coming from Jesus, that enables people to love people that are not very lovely in some ways. Actually, they are lovely, but people don't think like that. There's a stigma with people affected by HIV. If people are doing that, then government officials, hospitals, local officials, community leaders can see that the Christians have got something that they don't have. And so it creates an acceptance and a willingness to work alongside us, but it also draws people to Christ, which is a wonderful thing. So my vision would be to see more of that. To see in this part of the world where there's still a lot of HIV. In Thailand, HIV/AIDS is still growing. And whilst government policy is actually one of the best policies, I think, in the world, certainly in this part of East Asia, where there's a government policy that there'd be zero transmission of HIV, zero people dying of HIV, zero stigma against HIV. That's the intent of the government, but it's very hard to do that without the love of Jesus. And so our vision is to see this ministry grow, and for Christians to take this ministry across communities, across North Thailand, but also beyond North Thailand, because this is something that affects people and communities in all of the countries around here. And so the vision of God's church being planted and yet AIDS Care being a part of that, because it's an authentic love that's in AIDS Care, that can be an authentic love that's in churches. It's not just people changing religion or going from one set of rules to another. It's Jesus living in people is a wonderful thing. And so our vision for AIDS Care is that God will take it and use it to establish his church, to grow his church, but also to bless people who are affected by HIV.